I'm Mike Andrzejczyk with Virginia Cooperative Extension, and today we're going to talk about air layering. Air layering is a propagation technique that we use on camellias or other shrubs, sometimes even trees like magnolias or ginkgo, and it just depends on the varieties, how well it works. Camellias, it works really well. Usually about 80 to 90% of the air layers we do will come true and root really well. So what we're going to do is we're going to select branches that are vertical, okay? We want them vertical because hormones are all through the plant, and the root hormones go down towards the roots. So the more vertical the branch, the more likely the hormones are concentrated and going down to where we're going to want them, okay? And then we're going to wound the plant because we need to have that extra hormone there too to stimulate callus or scab formation, and we're going to basically cutting off the sugar flow from the leaves to the roots at a certain point, and that sugar, those hormones, that wound is all going to act together in a dark, damp environment to stimulate roots over a 3 to 4 month period. We're going to do this in the dormant season, sometime between January and April, and then we're going to come back 3 to 4 months later in August or September, and we're going to cut the air layer off and have a brand new plant that we can put in the garden. So we're going to choose as vertical a branch as possible, and we're going to remove about 8 inches worth of leaves and branches from the area where we're going to put the air layer. And we're going to get some things out of our way. So this branch right here, we're going to cut out, and we may get this leaf out and this little branch out too. Here, and here. We don't need that. So now we have a good amount of room where we can make our wound for our air layer. We're going to use these pliers that have the grooved teeth in them. So that's what's going to help grip. And in the late winter, early spring, this bark is slipping really nicely because it's starting to expand, starting to get full of water, and it's going to open up really well. So we can just grip the branch, and then we're going to switch it around, and we're just gripping the outer bark, and that's where the phloem tissue is. So you can sort of see now it's a different color, and it's slipped nicely. So we've got a good gap, and we want to just make sure all the way around that there's no bark attached. If there's bark attached, it's going to reheal and not form that callus. All those hormones are going to keep going down, all the sugar is going to keep going down. So if you think you're not sure, you can always do it again and expand the wound. So what we need first is foil or plastic to create a watertight or a more humid environment, and what we're using is florist foil. It's plastic on one side and aluminum on the other side to help it grip a little bit nicer for us, okay? So it works really well, and we use green to help blend in with the plants because squirrels and birds get really excited with aluminum in the trees and they poke holes in it. So we like to use this to blend a little bit better, and it then doesn't distract from the landscape as well. The other thing we'll need is unmilled sphagnum moss. So it's harvested right from the bogs, and you can still see the fibers in there. And we've wet it so it's nice and damp because roots need to grow in the moisture. And we're going to make a ball about the size of a softball or a tennis ball, somewhere in that range. And what I like to do is actually put my hand in and crease that ball to create 2 kind of halves. Because now we're going to wrap this around the stem, around that wound, and then what we're going to do is going to take this end and I'm going to fold it and roll it over and under, and then squeeze the bottom and the top and twist in opposite directions. So basically you've created this nice looking tamale or baked potato or burrito on the plant, and it's created a nice dark, damp environment over that wound. And now all the energy from the plant is going to be stopped there. However, water is still coming up through the xylem, which are interior tubes in the plant, taking it up to feed these leaves. If you gripped it too tight and you tore into those xylem, you'll know in a week because this whole part will turn brown because you've cut off the water supply. And now, through the magic of television, we're coming back to our plants 3 to 4 months later, maybe 5. Just want to get them harvested earlier in the season before it's too late in winter. And we're going to look at where the plant is, and we're going to cut it above a branch here and remove it from the plant. So this is a pretty big air layer. So we're going to look at how many roots are inside. And this one does have some, so you can sort of see some callus. That's the growth or undifferentiated tissue that eventually then turns into roots. Normally what we would do is leave the foil and just dip it in a bucket of water to get these bugs out. But we're just going to recut this stem because it's going to go under the ground, so we don't need that branch. I was going to take this off right here. Remove that branch, and I'm going to remove this one just to get it more in proportion with the root mass. So now that we've harvested our air layers, we can pot them up in a container. So something like a gallon or 3-gallon pot is good. And what we like to use is a combination of a well-drained medium. So I use some pine bark, some leaf mold, some compost, and mix it all together nice. So it's nice and loose and aerating, because camellias do not like wet feet, so to speak. So I'm going to put some in the bottom, get that nice base to protect the base of the roots, and then I'm going to set the root ball as low in the pot as possible so that we can bury it and anchor it in to keep it from moving too much during the rest of the rooting process. So I'm just going to add this mixture all around. I'm going to remove some of these yellow leaves anyway to get them out of the way. And firm it up nice all the way. And there we have it. Next thing, all we have to do is just water it in and we're good to go. So if you decide you want to plant your air layer in the ground, you want to dig your hole at least as big as the root ball, but maybe a little bit deeper. Just don't go too far. And again, nice roots on this one. And we don't need to dig it 3 or 5 times as wide because we're trying to keep it as anchored as possible to keep it from those roots from getting damaged. So I'm going to put it back in the hole and angle it the way I want. And then I'm just going to fill it back in with the soil around, no amendments. And you can leave a little bit of a lip or a saucer so that water can collect a little bit in there. But if you have good drained soil, that's key. You don't want camellias sitting in wet soil. Now again, you saw how big that root ball was, only the size of my fist, and we have critters walking by, or you walking by, or you're mowing the grass or whatever, and if we keep bumping this, those will break those roots off. So a good way to do that is to get some stakes, and you don't have to tape them together, just put them in the ground so that they keep the plant from moving, and you might just do it in a couple of different directions, kind of like a teepee to keep the plant in place, just to keep it from moving too much. So that's all you really need to do, and then you can remove those stakes in the spring or next summer when you want. But it helps you have a visual for that, and then what you might want to do is just put some mulch around that to also protect it, to keep you, again, from mowing too close, or so it stands out in the landscape a little bit more too.